It is scientifically proven that being around toxic people will make you uglier. And this is why it is so important as a pretty person with pretty privilege to realize and be aware that it is a privilege to be gorgeous, to be pretty, and to be able to enhance your looks to make your life easier. Only when you realize that being pretty is a privilege, you will be able to treat it as the tool that it is. If you're around toxic people for too long, the thing that happens is that they will realize that the energy you carry, maybe through the looks that you have and the way that you've been treated throughout your life, is something that they're jealous of. And you know what happens when people become jealous? They try to take advantage of your beauty to make sure that you don't feel so beautiful anymore because that makes them feel better. They turn all of their insecurities against you and they make you feel like absolute crap. And when that happens, you will feel more stress. If you're around people that are complaining constantly, if you're around people that are putting you down, if you're around people that are facilitating an environment that is mentally not good for you, you're going to start stressing. And you're going to be stressing a lot. And you know what happens when you stress? Your cortisol levels go up. Your hormones will try to cope with that stress by raising your cortisol levels. And you know what raised cortisol levels will do? They will make you unable to sleep. They will make your face puffy. They will make your digestion worse. They will make you gain fat in areas that you did not usually gain fat in. And they will make you keep that fat in those areas. Essentially, having raised cortisol levels or having more stress will make you uglier. So essentially, being around toxic people is literally gonna make you uglier. And it's gonna take away from your pretty privilege. And I'm not saying this to put down people that have issues because we can all have issues. That's normal. But it is important that you protect yourself against people that are consciously or subconsciously trying to leech off of the energy that you've been given or the privileges you've been given for being beautiful. It is important that you take yourself seriously and that you do not say, well, I'm just gonna be around these people to make them feel better, because that's not what's gonna happen. You're not gonna make them feel better. They're gonna make you feel worse. And when they make you feel worse, they make you more stressed, and that makes you uglier. And then eventually you're gonna end up being at the level that they're at because you're gonna start resenting your life because you let yourself be taken away by this sense of feeling bad about yourself. And you're going to start feeling bad about yourself because you subscribe to helping people that feel bad about themselves. There's nothing wrong with helping people that feel bad about themselves, but there's being proactive and then there's being reactive. And if you're reactive, like a people pleaser who wants to please other people, oh no, I feel so bad. She feels ugly. I have to help her out. Then you're eventually going to go down the same slope. If you're a pretty girl, especially if you're the firstborn daughter, there's a good chance that you're going to have this people pleaser gene embedded in you. It's going to be a part of your backbone. You probably grew up seeing your mom struggle, seeing your mom maybe put herself down, seeing your mom being distraught. And you took it upon yourself to make sure that she didn't understand that you were feeling bad sometimes because you didn't want her to feel even better. And you know what happened? That stressed you out. And eventually, you carried on this people pleaser gene into your adulthood, where when you meet people or men, you're going to be people pleasing everyone and their mother because you're afraid that if you don't make them feel good about themselves or if you don't make them feel like more than they are, something bad's going to happen to you. You take on this moral cape. You know what this moral cape does to you? Makes you uglier. Because instead of saying, you know what, you're going to have to deal with this problem yourself, you take on people's problems and they become your problems because you're stressing yourself out with their problems. And then you become really, really vulnerable. And when you become really, really vulnerable, other people are going to be able to take advantage of you, especially if you're a pretty girl. I see this happening a lot with girls out there who feel like it's a good thing going to the club to get free drinks. Like, oh, we get in for free. I'm going to go to the club to get free drinks. Good for you that you get free drinks. But the fact that you're pretty is making you have an entrance into this club is essentially proof that you can use your pretty privilege for other things, but instead you're using it to get a free drink from some guy who's getting off of feeling that he has pretty girls around him. If you don't fulfill that role of getting the free drinks, you're going to feel like you're not worth anything. So when you get free drinks, you're like, I get free drinks, I get free dinner, but you know what you don't get? Respect. Because essentially you're saying you're worth free drinks and your beauty is worth free drinks. Your beauty is worth way more than free drinks and some guy thinking I have pretty girls around you. You should be going out to party because you want to go out to party, not because some guy wants to give you a free drink. That should never be the motivation. And I'm only talking to like younger girls right now because I hope that if you're someone who's 25 plus that you've realized this already. If you're not, that's too bad. Your pretty privilege is only a privilege if you make it that. If you grow up and you look yourself in a mirror and think that your prettiness is something that you have to take advantage of in a way where you have to put yourself on the line, that's wrong. Your pretty privilege is something you have to take advantage of to give yourself opportunities, to get yourself better grades, to make yourself more likable in situations that can better your life, to score yourself the relationships and the friendships that are actually going to give you something in the long run. But you can only use your pretty privilege if you also become smart. And that's why pretty privilege is not really a privilege unless you realize it's a privilege, because you have to be smart enough to realize that it's a privilege. If you're just a stupid pretty girl, I don't want to use the word stupid like that, but if you're a stupid pretty girl, like we see in the movies, then people are going to be able to take advantage of your beauty and you're going to be left with a feeling of confusion or feeling less than. But if you're smart and you either go out and make yourself more than that, or maybe coincidentally, you realize that the best way to get the way you want is to actually play dumber, which is also a smart way of doing things. You're using your pretty privilege. The goal is never to be the quote unquote bimbo girl who is just dumb. You're not the exception. Understand that you will never be the exception unless you make yourself the exception and you work hard to be the exception. So if you just trail along and say, well, I'm pretty, so people are just going to treat me nice nevertheless, you're never going to be able to channel that pretty privilege into privilege. You need to have brains with that too. That is why it's so important that you educate yourself, that you take your power into your hands and go read the paper, go read self-help books, go journal, go meditate, go to the gym. And also at the same time, keep your appearances up. Make sure you look good. Make sure you keep on looking good. To use prettiness as a privilege, generally people have to think that maybe you're only pretty on the outside, but then you have to be smart on the inside and you have to know that you're smart. And this does not mean saying, well, I'll know things will work out. Things will not work out. Things will only work out if you make them work out. Especially if you're a neurodivergent girly, pretty privilege is essential. I myself am a pretty privileged neurodivergent girly, I would say. And I noticed that people don't really care that I'm a little crazy and I'm a little weird, that I will literally make the most weird jokes and comments and sometimes have zero social cues. But I also work on myself and I also read books about how to make myself better and how to work on other things. So my pretty privilege helps me to kind of like cover up the neurodivergence that the world doesn't like to see. But it also sets me apart as being someone who is true to myself. And I do not believe in authenticity and like, well, people have to take me the way I am. No, you can always be better. You can always be better, honey. There is nothing glamorous about saying people have to take me as I am. People have to accept you as you are. People don't have to respect you as you are. But if you don't take the leap to make yourself better, then how can people ever respect you? How can people ever take you as you are? Because you're only authentically keeping yourself in the same spot. You're going to use your pretty privilege to keep people guessing. And then in the back, you're going to work on yourself. You're going to create some standards. You're going to keep yourself working for you. And you're going to make sure that people don't end up messing around with you just because you're pretty face. As a kid, I did not understand the pretty privilege that I had because I guess I grew up with a lot of pretty people. So that wasn't really an issue. But when you become an adult, pretty privilege is very prevalent, especially because people will be older than you. And people will be trying to subscribe to this idea of youth. People will be trying to cling on to this idea of youth that in today's society signifies being pretty. And it is important that you use your youth to establish yourself because your pretty privilege can get you very far. But it's also about understanding that, especially if you're neurodivergent, that pretty privilege can only ever get you as far as your dedication to making yourself better goes. Because if you just end up sitting at home doing nothing and then go out and expect people to treat you nice just because you look pretty, you'll end up getting got along the way. You'll end up getting lost. You'll end up getting treated badly along the way because people will sniff out that you're essentially stupid. So you can't only sit down and say, well, I have to focus on my looks. I have to focus on my makeup. I have to focus on my hair. Yes, and you have to look good. And if you can make your hair and makeup and mind work at the same time, that's how it's supposed to be. You cannot just get fillers and have long blonde hair and then make things work out for you. If you have the long blonde hair, the fillers, and the perfect face and the perfect body or whatever people want to say, and you're smart enough, things will most likely be easier for you. Not perfect, but easier. But only if you realize that it's a privilege and you treat it as so. If not, people are going to take you for a fool. People are going to take your beauty and use for their advantage. Because they're going to see that you're not smart enough to use your own beauty, so they're going to use your beauty to their advantage. Because you're not realizing that it can be used like that. I usually think about this when I think about all the club promoters that will send you DMs if you're a pretty girl. And I'm not a stranger to getting those messages. I've been to clubs. I've been invited to clubs because these promoters think I'm pretty. Because it's definitely not because of my brains, because I'm not putting out like all of my deep thoughts on the internet like that, like in paragraphs. That's not what the promoters on the internet are replying to. They're looking at your profile, seeing that you're pretty face and saying, men will pay money to be in the surroundings of these women. Men will pay money to be in our club if you're there. If that's not a privilege for the club, I don't know what is. And if you're someone who likes to go clubbing and you can get it for free, that's fine. You have to understand that if you do not use it as a privilege, people are going to use you as a pawn. And people are going to use you as a way to get what they want. That's why when we see like the stereotypical like old dude who has a trophy wife is the highest form of woman a man can get. Because you know what it means when you have a trophy wife? It means you have the means, it means you have the facilities, and it means you have the space to facilitate a woman of this caliber. That's why when you look at someone who's like this dusty old man who, you know, might not have the looks on his side or whatever, when you see him with a plump young woman or whatever you want to say, people usually say, well, she's a gold digger, but on the same page, She's just a woman who has her standards so in place that only the type of man who can live up to that 150% will be able to get her. And you know what that signals to other men? That signals to other men that if this man got this woman, that means that he is able to facilitate the life for this woman. That means that he is that guy. So that gives him power. That gives him status. Having this beautiful woman who is taken care of, who is relaxed. And know that having a woman who is relaxed, who's taken care of, and who's beautiful is a privilege. That's why they grow some type of resentment towards women that don't take care of themselves after you get into a relationship. And that's why it's so important that you take care of yourself when you get into a relationship. You can't just be like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to let myself go. Because in society, pretty privilege is also heavily linked to patriarchy. Men are going to think that if you're some woman who's not taking care of herself, who's looking dusty, who's looking, tired, they're going to be able to see that this guy is not valuable. He's not that type of man because his woman don't look nice, especially if it's men that actually have their head in the right place, because dusty men will make dusty men. Like, they will reinforce each other and tell them that what they're doing is right, and keeping these women working for them is the right thing, because then that means they can go out and do whatever they want to do. The dusty men that have the women that are pushed beyond their limits, that are stressed out, these women become stressed, their cortisol is raised, and then they become uglier. Scientifically, they become uglier because they don't have the relaxed life they're supposed to have. And when that happens, usually that happens to women that put themselves in situations where they're giving more than they should be able to give. Or it happens when men put women in these situations because they don't like the way that these women carry themselves. That's why we got all these baby mamas out there who are literally scraping by, having such a tough time, because these men see these women having pretty privilege, being gorgeous, being amazing, having potential, and then they lock them down with a baby, or they lock them down with a relationship that's bad for them. And then that makes them less pretty, which makes them less powerful and less able to get what they want. A man who sees potential in the other end, a man who is wise, a man who is good, the type of man you should be with, is a man that will make you feel relaxed, is a man that will make you feel taken care of, so that your cortisol will be lowered, so that you can focus on becoming more beautiful. Because when you go out into the world with this man, people will see that you're relaxed. People will see you're taken care of. And they will think, okay, this man knows how to take care of this woman. That must mean that he's a powerful man. He's a rich man. And a man doesn't even have to be rich to be able to lower your cortisol levels. He just has to see your beauty as an investment. He has to see your beauty as something that is a privilege, and that being around a beautiful woman is a privilege for him. Because in today's society, a lot of men, and even not men, people in general, women do this too, will see other women as competition. Men will see other women as competition too, because we're in such a society that tells us that we need to be equal. So we have all of these women that are going above and beyond, getting their degrees, getting their stuff, getting themselves together, doing what they need to do for themselves, while still staying pretty, making sure that they got their hair done, their face looking nice, all of this, all of that. And then you will have women and men that come in and try to sabotage that because they don't like the idea of you being pretty, because that's a privilege for you. So they try to take your privilege away. They try to do everything they can to rob you of that privilege. They want to make sure that you are less than them so they can feel more powerful, instead of proving that they're better and that they're good people by making you feel better. There are two types of people. They're the type of people that will make you feel less than them because they feel less than themselves. And they do that to make themselves feel better. Or they're the type of people that understand that to feel even better and to get a better life, you need to make people feel good. Or you need to make yourself feel good first and foremost. If you make yourself feel good, you can make other people feel good, and then they can follow your pattern. People are only gonna wanna achieve the life that you have if you set an example for them for achieving this. So that is why it's so important, if you're a pretty girl, if you're a pretty person, that you do not let people take advantage of this prettiness, that you stand in your power and you use it as the power that it is. And that you enhance it and you enhance yourself and you make sure that you're taken care of, that you're healthy, that you're happy. Because then people are going to see that you're healthy and you're happy and you don't want to deal with BS. And then they're either going to go into themselves and feel bad and feel some type of way. They might try to come after you to try to put you down. Or they're going to go and do the work. They're going to go and do the work to get on your level. And when they go and do the work to get on your level, they're going to feel happy because they knew that they did this for themselves. They didn't do it to put you down. Because putting other people down is a cycle of resentment that you're building for yourself, because you're literally saying to the universe that in order to make yourself feel better, you need to put other people down. And that essentially just makes you a horrible person. So, pretty privilege is a privilege, and you need to understand how much of a privilege it is and how important it is for you to take it into your power, and how important it is for you to make sure that you channel it every single day. You wake up and you take care of you, and you only entertain things that make you happier, that make you better, and that you work on yourself. Because if you make yourself happier, if you're in an environment that's good for you, you're not going to become uglier, you're going to become prettier. And when you become prettier and when you become less stressed, you have more time to focus on getting smarter. You have more time to focus on setting your standards. You have more time to focus on building yourself up inwards. And then you have looks and you have brains, and then you can conquer the world. But looks alone will not get you anywhere. Brains might get you somewhere, but with looks, it can take you a little bit further. But don't be fooled. People want to use your pretty privilege as their privilege. They want to use your privilege. They want to take advantage of it. And if you don't step into your power, and if you don't focus on yourself, people are going to rob you of the experience you were meant to have, because you didn't realize that you were meant to have it. Because you're a people pleaser. Because you think that in order to make yourself happier, you have to make other people happier. And that's not the case. The people that are closest to you, yes, it's a good idea for you to be a good person towards them. But it is not your duty to make people that resent themselves and are not aware of the methods that make their lives better. It is not your duty to make their lives better. You can give them advice if they're really close to you, but then leave it at that. Go focus on yourself. Go work on yourself. And eventually people are going to be able to understand that you working on yourself is actually the work that needs to be done. And then if they really want that life, they're going to do the work themselves. So this was a bit of a ramble about pretty privilege, but it is essentially a very essential talk. So I hope you really like this. And if you have any questions, if you have something you want me to talk about, make sure you leave it in the comment section below, because I think this is a very, very, very important conversation to have. Wow. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank you guys for choosing yourself first. I want to thank you guys for being here. And I want to thank you guys for taking the time to make yourself better every single day. I love you guys so much. Have a great day. Bye.